3. Could Arizona basketball have one of the top 5 front courts in the nation, buoyed with a top 5 back court? Or are we just being unrealistic? Let's get to the bottom of that here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we talked a great deal yesterday about Arizona's backcourt and about where that could stand. Everybody knows Kylan Boswell going to be the point guard for Team USA 18 and under, my old position. Just kidding. Then Jaden Bradley, Caleb Love, Pelle Larsson, the Swedish pinball. All of that is a very, very good backcourt right there, perimeter right there. Now, they all have a few limitations. Pelle can't dribble. Caleb Love needs to be more efficient. Kylan Boswell got to take that next step. Same with Jaden Bradley. But there's a lot to work with there, and they all buoy each other very well. Now, the thing that everybody wants to get to, the U of A front court right there. And the U of A front court, obviously, Azuolas Tubelis is gone. Azuolas Tubelis was a good basketball player here at the University of Arizona. My only thing with Azuolas Tubelis is in big moments, he was kind of a weenie. Again, really good player. I would love to have his future. I'm talking on a podcast while he's going to make a lot of money overseas. But in big moments, you really couldn't count on Zoo, and that generally bared its ugly head during the NCAA tournaments. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other players on this team, though, that can pick up the slack and maybe take it to another level. First, our guy, Oumar Ballo, leader of men, Oumar Ballo. Now, I see Oumar Ballo on Fort Lowell many times at our Jamaican restaurants. Very, very good. But I will not tell you that. You have to find it out for yourself. But Oumar Ballo, though, I thought when he came in, as we talked about before, I thought he was going to be roster filler. I thought he was going to be a Gene Edgerson type where come in, you got your bike knee pads on, you throw a couple elbows, and then you go to the bench. Oumar Ballo is much better than that. Oumar Ballo was an all-conference performer this past year and the MVP of the Maui Invitational. 14 points, 8 rebounds for the season, Oumar Ballo. Now, the question with Oumar Ballo is, can he take that next step and become even better? That's what you want, again. And if anybody can do it, it is him. That pardon my fat finger right there. But Oumar Ballo, can he be an all-conference player? That's the question. If he can be an all-conference player, then Arizona is going to be in very, very good shape. Again, but an all-conference player taking that next step. Can he be 16-9? Could he be 17-8? Who knows? Take it for what it's worth, because I've been wrong on Oumar Ballo. Now, there are some people that are wrong in the other direction. I actually know somebody that thinks that DeAndre Ayton is not as good as Oumar Ballo. That person is wrong. But I understand that person's point, though, because when you watch Ayton, it doesn't really look like he's interested. To quote Jody Ayler, sometimes it looks like he's more interested in telling fart jokes than actually playing basketball. That's fine. But he's still better than Oumar Ballo. But Oumar Ballo, though, is the man that has captivated the imagination of Tucson. And we get to possibly watch this leader for the next 2 years right here. So can he be that guy? I don't know. That's a great question. Great question, being that I asked it and I don't know the answer to it. Now, I do think that he can improve a little bit. He's got a body type that is not necessarily conducive to becoming dynamic or explosive. He was in much better shape this past year, but he doesn't have a ton of muscle definition. Kind of still has that baby face, the broad shoulders, but who knows? But when he does play, as the Tommy Gun said, when he plays with balance, when he plays with purpose, he's a problem. I mean, but the problem with Oumar Ballo is, and pretty much the one drawback is, he can't fall on the ground as much. When Oumar Ballo is not falling on the ground, that means that he's dunking the ball or that he's scoring the ball. When he's falling on the ground, that means that he's not doing those things. So that's something to keep in mind. Make sure that he's not falling on the ground, all of that. But when he plays with purpose, when he plays with balance, like Tommy Lloyd said, he's very, very good. we would like to see more of that out of Oumar Ballo, and I think we can. Again, I don't really know what exactly his upside is, but I think he can continue to improve. Then, Keshad Johnson. I'm a big fan of bringing in Keshad Johnson. Now, you might say, Mike, who's Keshad Johnson? Well, thanks for asking. Keshad Johnson, starter at San Diego State last year, 13 points, 4 rebounds in the national championship game. Now, he is not the scorer that Azuolas Tubelis is, but he's also an infinitely tougher player than Azuolas Tubelis. He is when you watch him, he is startling into how muscular and athletic he is. We want more players like that, not less. And again, good work on the Tommy gun getting this guy. Now, he averaged 7 and 7 at San Diego State this past year. I think in Tommy Lloyd's system, it's fair to say that he could be something more like, 8 points, 11 points, 7 rebounds, something like that. I could easily see that being the case. Because again, Arizona runs, they get up and down with Tommy Lloyd, whereas at San Diego State, you didn't do a ton of that. So I think his numbers will go up. Now, again, he's not going to have some of the games that Azuolas Tubelis did, but I think come NCAA tournament time, I can guarantee you this, you will not be getting pushed around by Princeton. Players like that, they will be backing down and quaking in their boots going against Keshad Johnson. We need more players like that, especially, too, when you got kind of a laid-back kind of, I don't want to say aw shucks, but a guy like that with Tommy Lloyd. I think it's easier when you have physical players that really want the ball more. That's where I'm excited to see what he can do. I am a big fan, though, of adding him to the front court right there next to leader of men, Oumar Ballo. Now, neither one of these guys can shoot, but guess what? Who cares? Arizona, maybe on Arizona's best front courts ever, Michael Wright, Lauren Woods. Guess what they didn't do? Shoot. So, again, you don't necessarily need that. It's nice if you can get it, but you don't always necessarily need it. Now, I think the next question is, where can you get some depth in there? And I think that's where, if you're Arizona, you're really hoping that you can get some depth right there. I think Arizona's going to be able to get some depth right there, and we're going to talk about it as well. But Oumar Ballo, Keshad Johnson, I think it's fair to say that you could get 20. I'm going to say, here's my line of demarcation for these two. I want 25 points and 16 rebounds combined out of both of them. And I think Arizona is going to be in very, very good shape if that happens. As a matter of fact, I expect it to happen. That's where we're at with those guys right there. Very excited about the possibility, the inevitability of these players playing on the team next year, as they're already on the team. Keep in mind, too, Tommy Lloyd answered a lot of questions. Keshad Johnson was heavily pursued by Kentucky. They really wanted him, and Tommy Lloyd says, not so fast, my friend. You will be going to the University of Arizona. Now, before we get into some of the players in the back front court, some of the other peaks, the 4 peaks, if you will, let's talk about FanDuel first. Now, hold on. I got to find the background for it first. All right, there it is. FanDuel. All right, FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege. This is the crummy time of the year for sports. I don't care about baseball, horse racing, equestrian, or UFC. None of that stuff interests me. But you know what does interest me, though, is betting on it, though, because you know what I do like? Having a stake in something where my hard-earned locked-on money is going into that right there. That's what I like. Check it out. Again, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Check it out. Good stuff going on there. And again, makes things interesting. These are the dog days of summer for me again, but you know what? If I want to be interested in something, I am going to check out FanDuel.com/LockedOn. All right. Come back with us. We're going to talk about the reserve peaks, the backup peaks, the tertiary peaks, and we'll see about who can really do what where. Come back with us on Locked On Wildcats. Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now talking about the backup peaks right here. First one we got to talk about, Henri Veesaar. Big Henri. Henri came in with a lot of hype. Henri is good, but Henri also struggled last year at the end, and to the point where he was basically taken out of the rotation because Tommy Lloyd didn't want to sap his confidence. I totally get it. You generally don't want that to happen with a player like that. But Henri is back. I have seen Henri on campus. Henri has been lifting weights. Henri's looking fit and trim, ready to go. Now, Henri's got some unique skills. Henri should be the best shot blocker on this team because he's got about a 9'10" wingspan, and he can also move pretty well. He's got pretty good timing on his shot blocking as well. Henri Veesaar should be the best shot blocker on this team. And I expect him to be. If Henri can seize that third position right there, I think you're looking at a very nice type setup there for Arizona. But you need him to be able to do it. You need him to. I mean, let's be honest here. You need him to be able to get, I think, 15 to 18 minutes per game. Because I think if he can play 15 to 18 minutes of quality basketball, then you're on a nice little spot right there. Because I think he can get you 8 points, 5 rebounds, a block and a half or so. Because, again, Oumar Ballo, for all of his leadership qualities, is not going to ever be a shot blocker. Keshad Johnson, a little bit too small to do that. Henri Veesaar, though, we need Henri to step up. And you know what? To whom much is given or much is entrusted, much will be demanded. Much has been given to Henri Veesaar. We will expect more from him, and I think he's going to be able to deliver on it. And people laugh at me all the time. I mean, for a variety of reasons, not just this. But the one thing about him, though, I always tell them that Henri Veesaar can shoot the basketball. Arizona's, I would like to get more of that from him this coming year. And if they do, Arizona's going to be in good shape. But again, I think Henri Veesaar needs to be the leader in the clubhouse to be that third guy. If he does that, Arizona, again, will be in good shape. Now, there's other players that we got to talk about. My favorite player on the team, Dylan Anderson. All right. Now, there are a lot of people like Jason Shearer that don't know what they're talking about, and they don't think Dylan Anderson's any good. They are wrong. The Dilly Bar, as we're going to call him, is good. And I think it's just going to take him. My new friend Frank Caliendo and I have spent much time talking about Dylan Anderson. And here's what you got to know about Dylan, is that Dylan was misused a little bit in high school, I think. I think that's fair to say. Dylan should have been playing in the low post. Instead, he was trying to be Kobe Bryant on the perimeter. You watch Dylan Anderson, you watch Kobe Bryant, RIP, you don't look at those two players and say that they're similar basketball players, because they're not. But Dylan Anderson, though, is also very, very, I think he's got a lot of potential. He's got the tree trunk legs, which shows you that they're naturally strong. He's just got to, be able to take that next step. If he can take that next step, and by that next step is different for everybody, because a lot of people have different size feet than the person around them. With Dylan Anderson, I need you to be, first of all, I'd like to see him redshirt, because I believe that he's got a lot of potential. Remember, Ricky Anderson did that. I never liked Ricky Anderson as a player, but Lute Olson obviously liked him and said after his sophomore year, yeah, this isn't cutting it. We're going to redshirt you, and you're going to come back bigger and stronger. And he came back, and he was much better. I would not like to waste a season with Dylan Anderson right there, the Dilly Bar. I would like to see him actually sit out, come back with 3 years ready to rock and roll. But I believe, as does Frank Caliendo, that he's probably going to force his way onto the court. And what does that mean? You're probably looking at 12 to 15 minutes per. And, again, he's showing his three-point shooting. He's showing his back-to-the-basket game. And then next year, Oumar Ballo could possibly move on. Keshad Johnson will exhaust his eligibility. That's when Henri Veesaar looks to strike. That's where Dylan Anderson looks to strike. But you'll have to see. I'm curious to see how that does all play out, but he does have a lot of potential. I would like to see him be able to do that. Now, so those are the 4 peaks right there, the original 4 peaks. Well, 3 peaks plus 1. Now, there's some other guys in here that we also need to talk about as well, including Montius Krivas, one of the largest men that is walking the face of the earth. At 7'2", 245 pounds. I do wonder if he's good, but he is big. I am not expecting a ton out of him this year, but Tommy Lloyd has been on him for quite a while. Tommy Lloyd obviously thinks that he's good. And you know what? Tommy Lloyd obviously knows what he's doing, as he's 61-11 as a coach. But I will caution this. For all of Tommy Lloyd's strengths, the internationals that he's brought in his first couple of years, while they could be good, He's batting 0 for 3 on immediate impacts right there. So I always tell people that. I caution them when I do when I bring that up. But Mount Krivos, though, again, a massive individual, maybe the biggest player to ever come to the University of Arizona. Will be fascinating to see how he battles the other peaks in practice. But there's a lot to actually like about him. I just don't know that is this year. Who knows, though? I've been wrong on a lot of stuff before, and I could be wrong on this. I'd love to be wrong on that. And then Paulie M, Paulius Morauskas. Now, stop me. I know it sounds like a cast from Jersey Shore. We already got Philly B. We got Paulie M. But Morauskas, I believe, is the best out of all the international players that the Tommy Gunn has brought in. Morauskas is on some NBA radars already. Now, again, you can send me the rolling eye emoji because we said that about Henri Veesaar. But you know what? Everybody's different. But watching Paulie M, he's about 6'8", 205, 210, 15 pounds. He's not a twig. He can play a little bit of 4. He can play a little bit of 3. I think he's going to be kind of a combo in there. Again, I don't know necessarily what to expect, but I do think he's going to be that 7th man in the rotation. Now, what could that rotation be? Let's talk about that in the last segment here on Locked On Wildcats. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making it your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, the 7-man. All right, we know 6 players that are going to play 30 minutes per game for this Arizona Wildcats team. That's set in stone right there. Now, you all are smarter than me, so I'm going to recite this for myself just so that I know that I've crossed off this box. But the first thing right there, you've obviously got Oumar Ballo, leader of men. He's going to be leading them out there for 30 minutes per game, something like that. Keshad Johnson, same situation, 30 minutes per game. Then Pelle Larsson, probably going to play a little small forward, a little bit of power forward as well. He's going to be in that same exact situation, probably 30 minutes per game. I hope Pelle comes off the bench because Pelle as a starter looks like me. Pelle coming off the bench looks like Larry Bird. There is a difference. I like Pelle Larsson coming off the bench. Some guys are just a little bit different. Not sure exactly what the deal is there, but he's obviously better coming off the bench. Caleb Love, I expect to be the leading scorer on this team. Caleb Love will start. I know there's some people out there like Shear that are pushing the notion that he might not start. They're wrong. They know nothing of what they're talking about. They are not cats. With Caleb Love, though, nobody starts 3 years at North Carolina, averages 17 points per game, drops 30 points in a Final Four, and comes to Arizona not to start. That's not how these things work. You all know that. So he will start. Then in the backcourt, you're going to have Kylan Boswell. I see Kylan Boswell lives around my house. Kylan Boswell is enjoying his college life, which is a good thing. We all want people to enjoy their college life, and he deserves it. But I also expect him to be a really, really good player for Arizona this year. I expected Kylan Boswell to be Arizona's best player. Now, again, maybe it's Caleb Love, I don't know, or Oumar Ballo, but I would like Kylan Boswell to be the best player on this team, and I think he can. I'm looking for something about 15 points, 4 or 5 rebounds, or 4 or 5 assists, something like that. And then Jaden Bradley, big fan of Jaden Bradley. Arizona almost got him a year ago coming out of high school. He went to Alabama. He saw all the bad things that were going on right there, all of the shenanigans, and he reconciled himself to say, you know what, I should have gone to Arizona. And it's never too late to correct wrong. That's why Jaden Bradley's back here. I think Jaden Bradley's going to start for 3 years at Arizona or however long he's here, and he gives you the ultimate insurance in case Kylan Boswell goes to the NBA. It's a little bit like Jason Terry and Mike Bibby when they were here. Now, keep in mind, neither one of these players are nearly as good as Mike Bibby and Jason Terry because those are 2 of the 5 best players in school history. But you knew, though, Mike Bibby was going to be here 2 years. Jason Terry, even though he was a year older, was going to be a 4-year player. He was going to outlast Mike Bibby, so he was always going to be the player that was going to start once Mike Bibby left. That's what Jason Terry did, and it obviously worked out really well for Jason Terry as he became the National Player of the Year and arguably the best U of A basketball pro in NBA history right there. So again, it works out. Some of these guys know what they're doing. Well, they all know what they're doing. But it's kind of the same template, though, for Jaden Bradley along with Kylan Boswell. And then after that, like I talked about, I'd like to see Paulie M become the 7th guy. I think that he's got the most ability right there. But then Henri Veesaar, if I'm just going with what I want, I'd like to see them go 9 deep. I don't like the 6-man rotation. I think it leaves you too little margin for error. I'd like to see Dylan become that 9th guy right there. Or hold on, I'm trying to do my math right here. I'd like to see Dylan be that 8th or 9th guy. Henri, Veesaar, and Paulie M, your 7th, 8th, and 9th guys right there. But this is going to be a much better team than last year's team. Again, last year's team won a lot of games, but it was also filled with a bunch of soft players. You got rid of a lot of the goo, and you brought in some reinforced concrete right here. That's what I like about this squad right here. I believe this team could be a top 10 team in the nation, and I believe that it's got more potential than last year's team to go far because I think that it matches up very, very well with a variety of different teams. They're going to be able to be physical against certain teams. They're going to be able to outscore certain teams. They got shooting. They got playmakers. They got a lot of different stuff out there. Big fan of what Tommy Lloyd has done, and I also got to give Tommy Lloyd a lot of credit. It's really easy when you're a coach that's gone 61-11 to take inventory and say, you know what, who cares? I'm 61-11. I don't need to change anything. Sean Miller did that for 10 years here at the U of A. Now, again, Sean Miller had a lot of success for sure, but Sean Miller never changed anything. Everything was the exact same. I think he looked at it as a sign of weakness to change anything. Now at Xavier, he played a drastically different style. If he had played that style at Arizona, we'd probably have national championships. But he didn't, whatever. Tommy Gunn did that. He looked at year 2 and he said, you know, we got to get a little bit tougher. We got to get a little bit more dynamic with the ball. And he did just that. So again, tip of the cap to Tommy Lloyd. I doubt he's listening, but you know what? The tip of the cap should get back to him. All right. Now tomorrow, Arizona got a massive football commitment from probably the best in-city kid in the last 4, 5, 6 years that we're going to talk about. Now, I know he's not the highest rated, but I believe he is the best. He is that type of guy. Big-time commitment for Jed Fish. And again, Jed Fish certainly does get it. All right, we're going to sign off right here. As always, though, thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Be back with you tomorrow. As always, I'm Mike Luke. Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats.